you've got an awful lot going on right now. I assume you've been in rehearsals for the upcoming tour. How is that going?
It's going great. Of course, we have a wealth of music, hundreds of great songs from the last 40 years. The Darkness package had 23 unreleased songs. We got a new album, so we've got 3.5 new albums of material to insert into a great existing show and all that goes with that. And it's a beautiful, giant, wonderful musical jigsaw puzzle. And I've got over 50 instruments on the road.
Wow.
Just kind of a kid in a candy store with a long to-do list. And last weekend I went off and did my own shows in the Birchmere, Virginia, with my 3 brothers and Greg Barlotta, who I've been playing with, and of course promoting my new record, Old School, and a lot going on. Thrilled to have a new record I feel great about. Entering into a great year with the E Street Band and Bruce. Whenever I can, just try to spread the word about my website, my new record. We've got MVD helping distribute it. Really feel great about it. Just grateful after 43 years on the road to have a chapter coming up like this and be right in it.
Yeah, for sure. There's not very many working musicians over that period of time that are working at that level.
Yeah, and certainly not many that are have any degree of sanity left. Not to be arrogant, I think I'm certainly a little crazy, but I'm hanging in there. I got a great wife, Amy, and runs our home. We got 6 dogs. She's a professional cook, so there's always great organic food around.
Cool.
Of course, I got a bad sweet tooth, so I'm still sneaking in the M&M's pile, but trying to be grateful and take care of myself so I can keep doing this. I never would have imagined when I was 17 and hit the road that I'd be working on my 44th year.
Yeah. As you get older, do you prepare for touring differently? Do you get more mindful of being health conscious to stay at your highest peak?
A bit, yeah. While I was making my new record, I came up on my 60th birthday. Mm-hmm. Which is a hard number to spin, and also this is 3 years after having both hips replaced that I destroyed from my, trampolining on stage, jumping off drum risers, and playing basketball on city courts, which was my hobby, which I love to do to stay in shape, and I love the game, and of course all the city courts are cement basically, so I tore myself up pretty bad, and it was pretty startling. To have both hips replaced at the same time. So yeah, I'm trying to be a little smarter and not just do the music, because of course it's an endless list of things and ideas you have for your amps, pedals, effects, different sounds, different instruments, different string gauges, different everything. I mean, it's never ending, and I am trying to be a little more mindful of finding time to, for my health, and rest, diet, all that stuff that, at 60, if you're going to go out and blow up a show properly, you need a certain degree of physical health to do it. And, knock on wood, that's what I'm working on and have been able to do for, over 43 years.
Does it turn out that 60 is the new 18? Is that...
Yeah, it is in a lot of ways. Fortunately, I am not struggling like the guy in the song. The guy in the song's screwed. He's abusing everything in front of him, but he's old enough to have the wisdom to know it, have terrible depression and anxiety about it, and not having a clue how to get out of it, having some faith and hope that he can. It's kind of one of the things I wanted to do with my record is be authentic, and I realized that. Look, as blessed as my life has been, there's been a lot of ups and downs. Like everybody else, you stay around long enough, you start burying family and friends, and it's rough. It's hard to say goodbye, and you got to kind of pay attention to who's left, including yourself. I mean, Miss you raise about that. Just kind of trying to hook into what's left as you navigate the grief of loss that inevitably comes with time. And 60 is the new 18 in the sense that you're surprised that the wisdom experience leads to still so much anxiety and maybe fears. At the same time, you find a new level of, I think, gratitude for the blessings you do have. But, some people, I think, are finding themselves pretty startled at the anxiety and the fears and the problems that we find ourselves in. A lot of it is born of the economy and world leaders not really doing their job properly. They never have in my lifetime, and it's just getting worse. But the human spirit and condition, there's great, beauty and imagination, and I keep hoping we'll right the ship before it gets too bad, but it's getting pretty bad. And, all those things, I think, as you get older, you just can't ignore anymore. And you have to balance that with the gratitude for what you do have.
One notable loss in your life and the lives of a lot of music fans as well is Clarence Clemons.
Sure, yeah, that was horrible and still is. Clarence was a dear friend off stage. We spoke every week. And, he's a very powerful friend in my life, and I'll always miss him. I, dedicated my record to him. And just months before he passed away, I wrote this song, Miss You Ray, about that exact thing, about losing your musical heroes and friends. Having to try to hook in to the people that are left, because sometimes the grief can kind of blind you to the good stuff that's left around you, and you need to focus on that a bit more and work at that a bit harder as you continue navigating losses that come with life.
This upcoming tour is going to feature Jake Clemons. That's a really interesting announcement. How did that particular choice come about?
I don't know if that's the correct wording. We have a 5-piece horn section with trombone and tuba.
Oh, okay, cool.
Got a great player that goes back and forth. We got 2 trumpets and 2 saxes, and both saxes will share the duties. And there is going to be no one standing in Clarence's spot next to me playing horn.
Oh, okay.
So, it's just kind of a way to, look, it's such a powerful part of the music, and there is no Clarence too. So I don't think the word featured is correct, but Jake's always, been part of the family, and certainly know him well through Clarence, and I wouldn't put that pressure on him. I think we have a horn section that's going to, with 2 saxes and as a section, share the horn duties. There's probably a better way. I would not use that term. I wouldn't do that to Bruce or Jake. But I don't mean that disrespectfully.
Oh, sure.
I don't think that, that I think puts a little bit of a incorrect verbal pressure on Bruce and Jake as to how we're handling Clarence's loss. But yes, he's there. He's part of a 5-piece horn section that's playing great. And, as the tour, we're still not quite ready, for opening night, but we're getting there. And Bruce is a master band leader, so he'll navigate it with dignity and class. Because, hey, if we could have him back, we would. But he's gone. He's not gone in spirit. His spirit will be there on stage every night with us.
With such a gigantic catalog like you're putting out, how do you come in the first day and say, oh, my God, what are we going to play and not play on this tour?
Well, the nice thing is, like every band leader, you just, you want to feel attached to what you're singing. And, the same way I approach my show, I write a list, and there might be some great song, people want to hear, but if you're not feeling it, you don't put it on the list kind of thing. And when you have hundreds of songs to choose from and you're only playing, 26, 27, you just put something on paper that makes sense. We never really follow the set list. There's always audibles and changes as, the show progresses. We've all gotten pretty good at reading Bruce and trying to read his lips through all the haze and energy and craziness. But still, it's a very challenging, wonderful, musical journey, and we all have great experience at it. Nevertheless, it's still very challenging in the sense that Bruce likes to really take chances and push the band and himself to look for those magic moments that can't happen if you're playing the same notes and the same songs every night.
You and I have talked before about how your role in the band has evolved, and you've been really a utility player. You've played an awful lot of different roles in the band. How is that going to be different this upcoming set list?
No different. It's just getting larger, having more instruments still, and more ideas how to use them. Look, when Steve came back in the band in '99, between Patty and Bruce, me and Steve, you have 4 guitar players, which you don't need in this band. So I felt like I was the right guy from my history with the accordion, and teaching myself some piano and all the different guitars I play. I was a logical choice to go learn some little pedal steel, little lap steel, little dobro, little bottleneck, 6-string banjo, which is cheating. It's like a guitar, but you do have to put that metal on your fingers to get the sound, which was a big shock for me. But I took some crash courses in the instruments from some great teachers. Took some lessons on tape and just dragged, especially that pedal steel, just dragged it to every hotel on the day off and sat there with a little amp in the wee hours and, turned on my, lesson tape and tried to learn the next lick and figure out a very complicated instrument enough to just throw it in the toolbox and have, some simple licks I could play that worked. So it's fun. It's a great journey, and I've got over 50 instruments on the road. And guitar tech Roy Whitty, who has a formidable job of keeping them all oiled, tuned, and ready to go, which is amazing. And, interfacing that with an improv audible set list is quite challenging and fun. So it's just a big, wonderful musical jigsaw puzzle that we're all proud to be a part of again.
Let's talk about Wrecking Ball. This is probably the most anticipated record album that's going to be released this year. What's your role in the record, and how does that sort of interface with? I mean, it's a record with some outside guests on it as well. How does that work?
Yeah, well, basically, Bruce just home making records and demoing, and my understanding of it, he's always. I'm not speaking for Bruce, and I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So, my take on it is he's always, he's so prolific. He's usually always making, 3 records. And fortunately, he felt like he had one to release, which is great because then, we get to go present it and play it for people, interface it into our show, and just keep, evolving through our next chapter as a band. So it's a great record. I'm excited for it to come out March 6th and have people. I mean, I know they've been playing a few different songs now on the radio, but it's just, another classic, great Bruce record with 11 powerful songs that kind of represent where he is today and a reflection of our times with, all the humor and insight and wisdom he usually puts in his songwriting. He's in top form. It's a great album, and, I think already it's taken on a new level of power because that's what happens when you play live, especially with a great band. And, a lot of stuff that works in the studio. There's a lot of tiny, beautiful parts that just don't translate in a deafening rock setting in an arena. Mm-hmm. So we're going through that process now of finding out what's necessary, what isn't. Sometimes you play something for a while and you realize, that part's just not really reading, and there's probably another more significant part to present. And it's fun to take a great record but figure out how to present it live. It's always, it always takes a different turn as you get ready to play it in a live setting.
This is it's perceived as a real socio-political comment. This record, as a lot of the work is, and pretty timely about what's going on with the economy, and some people have read elements of the Occupy movement into it. What's your take on all of that?
Honestly, I love the record, but I'm not. I'm not just past the visceral power of the songs and how they're washing over me. I'm so steeped in the music right now that I don't know if I've studied the lyrics enough to start having a dissertation about them with you. Mm-hmm. I just love the songs, of course. Of course he's speaking about what's going on, but that's really up to the individual. I think there's a lot of room for interpretation between anger, cynicism, wit, humor. Sometimes you're baffled. I mean, look, all you got to do is watch the Republican debates, and you're just baffled at the bozo-ness and the embarrassment that is those candidates running for the highest office in the world. I mean, it's just. I mean, it is kind of sad and frightening, but I think just as a defense, as a human being, I kind of try to just. I mean, look, but I think the Saturday Night Live writers and all the comedy writers should be like sending them checks while they're at the bar having a drink because they don't have to do any work anymore. They just watch the campaign trail and then write the show writes itself. I mean, it's just unbelievable, and it's sad. Yeah. I mean, I really, obviously my whole lifetime, I grew up in Washington, D.C. as a kid, mm-hmm. Bethesda, Maryland, right outside of it, so I was inside the Beltway, if you will, my whole life, and I've never felt like the people running the show really, got it right, and I think we're at a new low, and we really are in a crisis as a planet and need a lot of help. And in my small way, I mean, last weekend I got up and sang for 1,000 people, and I hope kept them off the streets, spread some joy and inspiration that I hope, they took out of the building, that lingered in their lives. And that's, what we're doing, and our intent is on a grand scale with Bruce and the E Street Band.
It's interesting. I mean, there isn't a lot more you can do. You can try to do everything that you can in your own personal life and in your own career, but the world is going the way the world is going. For some, really, it's so tilted at the moment.
Yeah, I have hope that it'll change, but it's we got some significant problems, and when you mix in technology, it used to be the guy, thousands of years ago, the guy runs out of the woods and starts raping and pillaging, and 10 guys jump on him and beat him to death, and before he hurts another child or woman. And now you got nukes and suitcases.
Yeah.
And you still got the crazy. I hate to say it, I'm not proud of it, but it's usually men. Crazy men. It's like, how many palaces do you need? How many slaves do you need? How many people do you need, kissing your ass? Isn't that enough for one day? I mean, just go to another palace.
Right.
Hire another group of whores. I mean, whatever your thing is. Cuban cigars. Fly more in. Have some more booze. Have them. Yeah, I mean, geez. How much can one man have to have when you decide you got to, undo the country next to you?
Mm.
It's just madness. I mean, my wife Amy and I can't really disagree too much. She feels if mothers and women ran the world, it might be a safer place, and I probably can't argue with that. But when it comes to crazy men, when lunacy of power and abuse of power, I mean, men have a much larger track record than women throughout history. But people in those kinds of jobs are supposed to do better. They're not. I'm hoping that changes.
If you had to, if somebody held your feet to the fire and said you have to choose either Romney or Santorum as the nominee, who would you go for?
I'd shoot myself. I'm joking. I love life too much, but I would take the lashes or the punishment and refuse and vote for the other guy. In this case, it's Obama, thankfully. I mean, look, there's a lot of problems, but when you look at the options out there, I just don't see any serious candidate, and that's sad because, in a perfect world, I'm not Republican, I'm not independent, I'm not Democrat, I'm nothing. I'm like, give me something good and fix shit, and they don't.
Yeah.
And by far, if you look at the options, I just don't see anything even remotely considerable compared to, the world is a dangerous, crazy place. President Obama's had, coming up on 4 deep years into it, and I think he's, getting the lay of the land, and he's gotten some good things done, and I think he recognizes how deep the problems are. None of those guys, I mean, it's just silly what they're talking about. I mean, the world's ass is on fire, and they're calling people that want to go to college snobs, having debates about contraception. Guys, the friggin' house is on fire. Get the fire extinguishers. We'll talk about that. We'll sit around at the bar after the fire's out and talk about that insignificant stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just embarrassing.
I was looking at the tour that you've got coming up, the E Street Band, and it's a big, big tour. When you've got a thing like that, do you ever look at that and think, how do I balance all of that work that's stretched out in front of me against my personal life?
Well, you don't. Your personal life loses. You don't balance it. I mean, I guess that's a little harsh, but what I do is, because I really miss my home and my wife and my dogs and my life there, and it's an important part of who I am now, more than it was when I was younger. So, for instance, sometimes last tour what happened was if I've got 2 days off on the East Coast, even though I need the rest, I will fly across country to go home for a day and a night, and I will fly back to be back to the tour rather than not go home at all for months at a time.
Right.
And that's all I can do. I can't really change the gigs. I'm grateful for the gigs. And, you can't really... I know some bands, I don't know, I'm not sure. I think sometimes the Eagles will go out for a month and go home for a month. That's cool. But that's, there's a real impracticality to that when you've got 100 crew members.
Right.
They need steady work, and there's just a lot of elements that go into it. And once you fire up something that big, you need to keep it out there working and running, and it's also good for the music, to play 4 or 5 nights a week. It really, hones you into a powerful unit. And so, the little balance I can find just really involves rushing home for a day or a night whenever I can. And, I much prefer that to being away from home for long periods of time, just sitting in a room. Look, I can play and study music and, try to find some good food and go to the gym and work out a little bit, but nothing replaces being home with your family for a night and a day, even if that's all it is. If that's all it is for 2-3 weeks or even a month, that's better than nothing, and I'll take it.
The excitement of those kinds of shows, do you find a huge arena show to be more exciting or just exciting in a different way than a more intimate venue, or do you care? Is it all just playing to you?
Well, I don't know if I care. It's not just all playing, but it's all, like my job is to go out, is prepare enough during the day. Last weekend I did it as a band leader. Now I'm doing it as a band member. But you prepare enough through the day so when you walk out there, you can kind of shut your mind off a bit and just let your musical instincts respond and react. But the job is to kind of get down in the music, get lost in it, and trust your musical instincts and really do something inspired. And that's the same mindset whether you're in a club, an arena, or a stadium. Sure, it's a different visual when you're in a bigger place. And, one of the things is I like the space. I like to flail around and throw my body around and just move to the music. But, sometimes you'll find a nightclub where you have that space. And I got to say, that's really, if you have the space to move and just address the music physically like you'd like to, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just a different spectacle, of course, in an arena and a stadium versus a club. But, hey, we were talking about the other day, on Jimmy Fallon Monday, I almost took Bruce out a couple times with my guitar. I was really having to be careful. I knocked the mic off my amp, but there was something cool about being that tight.
Yeah.
Now, it was cool for 2 songs. I would not want to do that for a whole night. Yes, there's an intimacy getting a little closer to each other that you can't really do in a big setting because you got to spread out for people and let them see the whole thing. But still, it doesn't change the job of the music getting done right and being inspired and kind of taking chances and, being prepared enough to get a little reckless. Yeah. And look for those magic moments, knowing that if you don't find them, you're still proficient enough to just, not cause a train wreck or kill the groove. And that's the great thing about being in a band. You can trust your bandmates, and hey, I can go on a ledge here, and whether I grab something cool or just, grab a foothold and get back, it's not going to hurt the overall song.
Right.
Because I got a great band I'm playing in.
Well, is there anything else you want to say about the upcoming album release, the upcoming tour, your solo album, whatever else you have going on?
Well, I'm just, you can get old school at NilsLofgren.com. MVD's also getting it in some music shops, and I'll be promoting it through the year, too. And there's a great guitar school for beginners at NilsLofgren.com if you want me to teach you how to play guitar. All my life, people have thought since they have no talent or rhythm, they're not allowed to play guitar, and I put a school together for those people to show them how to have fun and learn some guitar music. But that's it, man. I'm grateful to be out playing with the band. Got a new record I'm really proud of, and it's just a great musical journey at this point for me.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much for doing this today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for spreading the word for me, and it's good to talk to you.
You too, man. Have a good day.
All right, you too.